Good morning, it's November 20th. This is To My Liberal Friends. Well, the new buzzword among Democrats is affordability. This was the key word in Unaffordabe in New York City, in a similar vein for Katie Wilson out in Seattle. Both candidates promised to make things free for the public and thereby make their lives more affordable. Sounds nice when you hear it, but ignores how we got here in the first place. The first thing you need to understand is that the places where life is mostly unaffordable are in cities and states where Democrats are governing. Over and over, we see these places like New York, Illinois, and California becoming so costly that many people are forced to live in poverty or to leave in search of better living conditions. Democrats continue to think if we simply spend more money, we can solve everything. They promise wonderful sounding new programs, free child care, etc., but in fact preside over bloated bureaucracies and inept execution. If America has an affordability crisis, it tends to be in places where Democrats govern, which all feature high taxes, soaring housing costs, and stagnant outcomes in basic areas like education and infrastructure. If you want a classic example, you only have to look at New York City. In 2012, at the end of Michael Bloomberg's term as mayor, the city's budget was about $65 billion. Today it's closing in on $116 billion, which means it increased by 75% during that time. City spending has gone up, while the standard of living as well as the infrastructure of the city continues to deteriorate and go down. The result is a paradox that defines much of blue state America. Government that promises more costs more, but delivers less. New York State mirrors the city. Its spending has risen from roughly $70 billion in 2000 to more than $230 billion today, about twice Florida's budget, even though Florida has several million more residents. When voters see that record, they conclude, not unreasonably, that more money is not the answer. So how do we get there where the issue of affordability is on everyone's mind? When Donald Trump left office after his first term, inflation was at 1.2%. During his first term, annual inflation averaged about 1.75% a year, below what the Federal Reserve considers its target of 2%. President Biden, with the support of his Democratic majority in Congress, went on a spending spree when he took office, adding nearly $4 trillion in new spending in 21 and 22 through the American Rescue Plan, which was $1.9 trillion, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, $1.2 trillion, and the aptly misnamed Inflation Reduction Act, $891 billion. These were mostly payoffs to unions, green energy schemes, and identity groups that supported the Democrats in the 2020 elections. These three measures increased the federal debt to well over $33 trillion and caused prices to rise almost immediately. During Trump's first term in office, interest rates on 30-year home mortgages hovered at around 4% from 2017 to 2019 before falling to less than 3% as the Federal Reserve reduced rates to deal with the virus pandemic. Due to low mortgage rates, home sales increased to a record of more than 1 million units per month in late 2020. Strong consumer demand for housing continued in the early years of the Biden administration before spending policies and rising mortgage rates killed that boom. These rates put a damper on the sales of homes across the United States. Due to those rising rates, home sales declined from 1 million per month in 2020 to less than 500,000 per month in 2023, much to the frustration of would-be home buyers who could not afford the much higher rates. Sales have rebounded somewhat in 2025 to roughly 800,000 units in the last month, and that's owing to mortgage rates coming down. The same pattern holds with food prices as with interest rates, mortgage, and rents. During Trump's first term, food prices were generally stable, increasing at between 1% and 2% annually over the first 3 years in office. Due to the pandemic, food prices increased somewhat in early 2020 before leveling off again at the end of the term. By the time Biden came into office, food prices had increased by 3.6% over the previous year, talking about 2020 and 21. During Trump's first term, gasoline prices, using regular gas, U.S. averages, ranged between $2 and $3 per gallon, before falling to $1.50 a gallon during the pandemic. The average price was about $2.30 per gallon when Trump entered office in 2016, and according to a graph of the St. Louis Fed, yet prices surged as soon as Biden took office, increasing to $3.18 per gallon in early 22 and $4.84 a gallon in mid-2022, a doubling of the price in a little over 1 year. Now, if you digest all that information, what you come to is a realization that rising prices of everything is generally caused by inflation. The so-called affordability crisis that Democrats keep screaming about was caused by the incompetent policies of the Biden administration. They spent like drunken sailors on shore leave. That includes the counterproductive green energy policies, Anyone watching the automotive industry bail on electric vehicles because of cost and lack of sales, as well as their open border policies, which cost cities around the nation billions of dollars to take care of these immigrants. What Democrats are now trying to do is deflect from their own failed policies and blame Trump for everything. Trump is far from perfect, and he's made some wrong decisions, but on the core issue of inflation, read that affordability, I will take his track record over the Democrats. So when you go to the ballot box, don't be fooled next year, knowing that if Democrats regain the power, they'll start spending, and government spending is the fuel that fires up inflation, and that means nothing is affordable anymore. That's the problem. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.